Are Arsenal feeling the pressure? Is Arsenal's mentality that they have displayed over the past few years starting to shine yet again? A 2-2 draw that played out between rock bottom of the table Wolves, who found themselves 2 goals down to fight back to 2-2, by the way, and currently top of the table Arsenal. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another live stream. We're here talking about Arsenal today in the aftermath of yesterday's somewhat shocking, somewhat surprising draw to Wolverhampton Wanderers yesterday. I can't imagine a lot of people went into that game yesterday feeling that an upset was going to be on the cards in any way, shape, or form. I can't imagine a lot of people yesterday went into that game thinking that Arsenal were going to drop points. I imagine even less people probably felt that way when Arsenal raced into a 1-goal lead, made it 2-0 in the second half, and even maybe when Wolves managed to half the deficit on the hour mark. I don't think a lot of people thought that Arsenal were going to bottle that game in the way that they did. But some might say, in typical Arsenal fashion, with the seconds ticking down in the game, deep in injury time, Wolves rescued a point from the jaws of defeat. What it means for them, it could be a valuable point in terms of a late great escape. Seems very unlikely, but I would love it if there is some sort of miraculous recovery from Wolves. But we're not here to talk about the relegation dogfight. We're not here to talk about Wolverhampton Wanderers, even though we should give them their flowers for fighting back, and we should give them credit for how they managed to rescue a point last night. Instead, we are talking about Arsenal. The point is not amazing, but at this current moment in time, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. City still have to win their game in hand. And of course, if they do that, then there is the possibility of them managing to overtake Arsenal, with obviously the game coming up later in the season between them two sides taking place, I think, around about game week 32, 33 of the season, somewhere around about then and there. It's not the end of the world, but what it does mean is that Manchester City now have the title race in their hands. It's advantage City as far as what we're all concerned. Points on the board mean more than games in hand, and I've always said that, and I still maintain that belief. But in saying that, it is City's for the taking, and City will be smelling blood, because not only have Arsenal dropped points in this game, but they dropped points last week against Brentford. For title contenders or title winners, their form hasn't exactly been great for the past several games. Are Arsenal starting to feel the pressure? Is Arsenal's mentality that we have questioned so much these past few years starting to shine through yet again? And does City smell blood? Because it's all well and good if Arsenal are dropping points, but City have to capitalise. And we're entering into a big, big month ahead. And it's not just a big month in terms of the Premier League title race, but there's also the Carabao Cup between these two teams as well. And I know it may seem like a cup that not many people take seriously, not many people have high on their priority list, but it could be a massive game in terms of not just a piece of silverware, but also in terms of a confidence boost, a mentality boost, a boost that may give the winning team the edge in potentially winning this league title. We're going to be diving into the performance and some of the questions I have. But before we get into all of that, make sure you are liking the video. Make sure you are subscribing as well. Both things are always and forever greatly appreciated from each and every single one of you. Big up to each and every single one of you that's already here. And also showing some love and support to the channel. Really does mean the world to me, guys. So I really do appreciate it. And as always, get involved in the comment section, whether you're telling me that you're new, whether you're just popping in to say hi, or whether you are going to be talking football with us today. Get involved. Really do appreciate it from each and every single one of you. As Luca is here. Luca Talks Don's in the building, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you being here, bro. Big up to you. Hope you are doing well. Go and subscribe to Luca's channel, people. Doing some great stuff over there. He's an Arsenal fan who also talks a lot of MK Dons as well. If you want to broaden your footballing horizons, then Luca Talks Dons is the channel for you. Luca, if you're still here, by the way, and if you want to come on the show, if you've got some time and you want to come on and you want to talk some Arsenal with me, I've got a few questions that I want to ask Arsenal fans in general. If you want to kind of have your say on the show, just let me know and I'll drop the link, my bro. Just let me know if you're free to do so. Spurs will win on Sunday. Be interesting what your prediction is. I'm leaning more towards Arsenal to win that game. I think Arsenal will bounce back on Sunday. And the reason being is Spurs obviously haven't been that great this season. Spurs at home especially haven't been that great this season. I think Arsenal need a response. And I think they will get that in a way on Sunday. The only thing that is kind of making me doubt that prediction it's this new manager thing. It's Spurs' new manager. Because realistically, Arsenal should be beating Spurs. Realistically, Arsenal should be beating Spurs, no matter what the situation is. But as we know, new managers often throw up unique things. Hence, like Exhibit A, no one was really expecting Manchester United in the first game under Michael Carrick to beat Arsenal. And look what happened. Man United beat Arsenal. So a new manager could always throw a bit of a spanner in the works, as I've always said. If I'm to take out that element, though, Arsenal should be winning that game. And I think Arsenal will win that game. And I think Arsenal will bounce back. I don't think it will be the most convincing of performances and victories that you'll see. But I think Arsenal will, by hook or by crook, get the job done. And after the week you've had in which you drew to Brentford, drew to Wolves, just getting a win under your belt to kind of stabilize things a little bit will be massive. It will be massive for your boys to obviously get done. Just going to have a quick look here to see. Oh, Man City, Newcastle. I was just wondering who City had this week. So you've both got interesting matches. So I'm not convinced by City, Newcastle. The only thing I will say from a City perspective is it's at the Etihad, and Newcastle also played against Qarabag midweek. And they absolutely smashed Qarabag, by the way. Like, there is no point in even playing that second leg. That second leg is done and dusted as far as what Newcastle are concerned. So that one could be interesting for the reasons of Newcastle played midweek. City had extra days to prepare. City should now have the bit between their teeth in terms of going for the kill, chasing down Arsenal as best they can. But as we know, Newcastle are very hit and miss this season. Newcastle are very hit and miss this season. So that one's going to be an interesting game to witness firsthand. So I'm going to be very much looking forward to both of those games this weekend. Very much looking forward to both games. But this is how crazy the title race is. The title race could easily turn again this weekend. You could be looking at Spurs and going, oh, maybe we will drop points again on Sunday. But City could also drop points. And this is what I've been saying all seasons. City don't convince me like they did years ago. City don't convince me like they did in their prime when Liverpool were getting 96, 97, 92, 94 points or whatever it was. And losing to City by a point or 2 points here and there to be second in a league where in other seasons Liverpool would have won the league. That's not that City team anymore. And this season especially, City have proven that they're not as consistent as what they were. They're not as strong as what they were. They're not as brutal, as ruthless as what they were in previously. They should be right now. And obviously, if they go out there on Saturday night, they make a statement against Newcastle, they stick 4 or 5 goals past them, and they say, look, a couple of weeks ago, we were dead and buried in this title race. We had no hope whatsoever. Pep Guardiola was literally on the bench at Anfield, looking depressed, looking dejected, looking like he was done at City and with this title race. And all of a sudden, they get the win at Anfield, and suddenly their tails are up. And in the past couple of weeks, like I say, Arsenal have dropped points, stuttered, hesitated, and now they should, City, smell blood. City should be smelling blood here. And that's not a good sign to be in. Arsenal have been in this position before against City. Liverpool have been in this position before. We can tell you from experience, it's not a pleasant sight. It's not a pleasant place to be with City breathing down your neck. It's advantage City, but there's still a lot of football to be played. There's still a lot of football to be played. Spurs will beat us, says Luca. I knew City will win it all along. You have remained consistent on that, bro. This is not like a reactionary thing from you. So I do know where you're coming from. This is not a reactionary thing from Luca here. Luca has on numerous videos where I have talked about the title race or where I have talked about Arsenal or City or whoever. Luca has remained adamant, even as an Arsenal fan, that Man City will win the title race. So this, like I say, it's not a reactionary thing. He has remained consistent with his prediction there. Spurs 2, Arsenal 1 is what Lucas says here. Again, I don't know. Like, Spurs very well could. The new manager bounce could be a real, genuine thing. There's no doubt about it. And it does throw a bit of a curveball. I don't know much about this Igor Tudor guy. More about his management. I don't know much about his management. I've researched a little bit, but I don't know how much of an impact he's going to have right off the bat. I really, really don't. So you very well could be right. If you are right, I'll be here and I will give you your flowers for giving this prediction. I just think, I don't know what I just think that Arsenal will get the job done. Hook or by crook, any means necessary, not pretty whatsoever, but effective. Arsenal will get the job done. That's what I'm going with for Sunday. As far as the game goes last night, Arsenal start the game. 5 minutes in, they're 1-0 up. At that point, I'm like, there is no point watching the rest of this game. There's no point watching the rest of this game. Arsenal confidence low. Maybe. We will see on Sunday. I think Sunday is going to be the telling point for me from the outside looking in. Still back Arsenal to win, but at the same time, if they were to lose to Spurs, that's going to be a killer blow. That is going to be a definite killer blow. Like I say, bro, if you want to come on and have your say, then by all means, feel free to just drop me a message and let me know if you want to come on and speak. Otherwise, yeah, I'm happy to still be in the chat and talking. It's all good. Man City will win it. Like I say, you remain consistent on that, and I respect it. I respect the consistency. You've not flip-flopped. You've not changed purely based on which way the wind is blowing. I respect it. I respect it a lot. Five minutes in, Saka puts Arsenal 1-0 up, and I'm thinking, that's it. Curtains, game over. There's no point. Arsenal will either see the game out at 1-0 or they'll get a couple more goals and then see the game out. There is no need. There's no need to watch the rest of this game. At 2-0, my prediction of that was looking so sure. So sure. It was looking like it was the end of the game. Game was done. Even at 2-1, even when Wolves scored that incredible goal to get back into the game at 2-1, I was like, I've seen this situation before. Arsenal will have a little bit of a wobble now for the next 5 minutes. There'll be a little bit of, this could be something like Arsenal might drop points here. And then after those 5 minutes are over, Arsenal will go on to seize control back of the game and they'll see the game out from this point. That didn't happen. And that is probably one of the first times this season that didn't happen. For the first time this season, I have seen Arsenal have, well, not for the first time this season, but for the first time in a game like this, I would say that this is the first time that I've seen Arsenal not have control on the game. They did not have control on this game whatsoever. Wasn't like they had all the possession. Wasn't like they had all the opportunities and chances in the world to go on and kill the game. They did have chances. Gabriel Martinelli, we'll get on to him a little later, was an absolute criminal. An absolute criminal on the night. But Wolves could have had more. Wolves could have had more before they eventually did find an equaliser. And that was the telling thing for me. That was the bit where I was like, that final half an hour, I saw the old Arsenal of the past few years rise to the surface. That last half an hour of the game, the pressure really did get to Arsenal. There was no pressure until that point. For the opening 60 minutes, Arsenal were in cruise control. Arsenal were looking to go 7 points clear. They're laughing, they're joking, they're not even like taking it seriously pretty much. I think they took their eye off the ball and they slipped on a massive banana skin because in that last 30 minutes, they panicked. That last 30 minutes, the old Arsenal rose to the surface and they panicked. They were literally going, this is easy, 1-0, this is easy, 2-0. Suddenly, a brilliant goal from Wolves, and it's, panic stations. Panic set in. And rather than see the game out, rather than gain control back on the game, they let it get away from them. They let the game get away from them. And now, granted, I, as a Liverpool fan, have seen slip-ups in big title race games. I have seen my club even in the years where we ran away with a league title last year and back in 2020, I have seen my club slip up in certain games. We got battered 3-0 by Watford. We got battered 3-0 by Watford back in 2020. We slipped up last year in the Merseyside derby. These things happen. I get that. The difference is that in both of those situations, we were miles away from second place. Arsenal can't say the same thing. Arsenal are only 5 points clear of Manchester City right now, after that draw last night, with City now having a game in hand. Like I say, City should be smelling blood. City should be smelling blood right now. A couple of weeks ago, the title race looked pretty much over. Pep Guardiola was sat at 1-0 at Anfield in his seat on the bench, and he was looking dejected. He was looking like he was done. And then his players got him out of a really deep hole. They won the game at Anfield, and you just see how that seemingly has motivated the team, how that seemingly has given them an injection of confidence, a mentality boost. It has seemingly sprung new life into Manchester City. Moments, people. That's all it is. Moments that can change the momentum and the mentality of players and a football club. And the same is happening with Arsenal right now. 2 draws in a row to Brentford and Wolves. A double game week. And they slipped up on both encounters. For a title chasing side, that is simply put, not good enough. Just want to go back and check something here. In the last 7 games of Arsenal Football Club, they have had 7 Premier League games, I should say. In the last 7 Premier League games, they have had 4 draws, they've had 4 draws. Drew to Wolves, drew to Brentford, drew to Forest, and drew to Liverpool. They've had 2 wins against Sunderland at home and Leeds away. And they've had 1 loss to Manchester United. That's not good enough. That run is not good enough. Now, like I say, they might be able to get away with it because City catching them may or may not happen. Like I say, I would like City to catch them. But I'm not as full of confidence as what they were when they were the City team of the 4-peat, when they were the City team that were beating Liverpool to league titles with, 2 points clear, 1 point clear come the end of the season with 96, 97 points or whatever it was. But I just don't know. I just don't know. Like, I was so sure the title race was over. Now I'm beginning to have certain doubts. And the certain doubts are coming from, once again, the manager, once again, the players, everybody, in my opinion, should take responsibility. My first question that I want to ask is on Bukayo Saka. Now, he takes his goal really well yesterday. Fair enough. But after that, he didn't really do a lot. Earlier this week, he signs a new 5-year deal. He caps that off with a goal last night against Wolves. He's playing in a new position for him, number 10, behind the striker. But yet, his performance struck me as similar as it does when Martin Odegaard plays in that position. A bit of a ghost. I'm not kind of scapegoating him on the night. I'm obviously not an Arsenal fan, so why would I? I'm not scapegoating him. I'm not scapegoating anybody. My simple question is that once again he limps off the pitch. I, as an Arsenal fan, would be worried that this guy's broken. You've just signed into a new 5-year deal. I think it's 5 years. I think it's 5 years. New deal, $300K a week. And he's limping again and again and again and again. And I think I said this last year. And I've definitely said it before that, but I don't know if I said it on a stream before last year. I was worried about Saka for a long time. I've been worried about Saka for a long time now because I think he's a fantastic player, don't get me wrong. I think he's one of the top wingers in Europe, in the world of football. I think he's great. My worry for Saka is that I think he's been ruined by the manager in terms of he's not being allowed the freedom to go and be Bukayo Saka. But I'm also worried in the sense of I think he's broken still from his injuries. Remember when he had basically a string of games where he'd play and he'd just limp off the pitch, whether it be through sub or whether it be at the end of the game, he'd just limp off the pitch. I said that I have seen a lot of players do that. Whether he's been given injections or whatever the hell it may be to kind of get him through certain games, I don't know. But I have seen a lot of players ruin their careers because they just want to play every moment of every game. I've seen players that have been ran into the ground because they feel the need to constantly and consistently play. And in the modern day, where games are coming thick and fast, even quicker than what they were before, in the modern day where the intensity of those games is an all-time high, I don't think you can do that anymore, which is why squad depth is so key. So key. And that's why I thought they bought Madueke. But this guy just seems to be thrown into the deep end whenever he's fit to play. Whenever he's fit enough to play a certain amount of football, this guy is just thrown in without any hesitation whatsoever. I have seen it happen to Michael Owen. I have seen it happen to Owen Hargreaves. I have seen it happen to a more recent example, Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford used to do the same thing, where because he was playing so well, Even if he had injuries, he felt the need to constantly play, and the manager constantly threw him in there without any hesitation or without any kind of insight into the bigger picture that might come about in a year or two's time. Look at where Rashford is now, killing it in Spain for all intents and purposes. But he's not the same Marcus Rashford as what burst onto the scene. He's not progressed or advanced his own personal performances to what we had seen when he first burst onto the scene. Saka is the same. Saka is not the same Saka that he was a couple of years ago. Can he potentially get back to being that Bukayo Saka? 100% he can. Can he get better though? I have reservations. I have doubts. And I have doubts mainly because I don't think this manager will allow him to. And I also have doubts because I don't necessarily think his body is going to be able to go on much longer if he is not given more protection. That's where I have doubts on Bukayo Saka. That's where I have doubts on whether or not he is being managed properly. Another area of concern that I noticed yesterday, Declan Rice. Declan Rice. Nothing to do with him performance-wise. But in the same way that I'm talking about Bukayo Saka being run into the ground, I have concerns that Declan Rice may be going in the same direction. The guy looks shattered. Guy looks tired. Last night was probably a game in which you could probably go with Christian Norgard instead of Rice, and maybe have Rice behind a thin case of glass. You know, smash glass in case of emergency kind of thing. Declan Rice has been playing so much football, covered so much ground, played in some of the most intense matches, and yet he constantly goes and he goes and he goes and he goes. And I remember a lot of Arsenal fans saying, like, this guy's incredible. This guy's a machine. The way that this guy can just go from one game to the next, play a full game, cover as much ground as he can. He is incredible. I've also said that he's a human being. And they will break down eventually. And we could potentially be seeing that with Declan Rice right now. Potentially. It's not a guarantee. It's not anything like that. It's a possibility. That's where my second concern comes in. Declan Rice's fitness. Zubimendi's fitness. Gabriel and Saliba yesterday. Timber these past few games. Where's his performances gone? Lucas says City 3, Newcastle 0. City 56 points away. Arsenal 58 points. City will beat Arsenal. Then City go 1 or 2 points clear. Then we have to rely on City. Like I say, that scenario could potentially be playing out before our very eyes. We shall see on Saturday, and we shall see going forward, bro. Big up Marco is in the building. Lovely to have you here, my dude. It says that Arsenal are still in a better position. Much better. City still have to win against Newcastle, and also a draw at the Etihad for Arsenal is good. Man City have to win. The pressure is more on City. Of course, the pressure is still on City. They have to win their games in hand, and as I said at the beginning of the near the beginning of the video, points on the board mean more than games in hand. Of course they do, but the bit between their teeth should be with City. The smelling of blood should be in City's. I forgot the word I'm looking for. Should be very well and truly up City's nostrils right now, for use of a better phrase and a better word. that everything should be going in City's direction right now. But it's whether or not that City themselves can handle that pressure. It's whether or not City themselves can be there to capitalize. That's the big thing. And like you say, they've got some tough games themselves coming up. Newcastle are no pushovers. We know that. Arsenal against City. If the points gap remains the same, this is the bit that would frustrate and annoy me as an Arsenal fan. If the points gap remains the same, let's say that City win their game in hand, right? That takes it down to 2 points. If City versus Arsenal takes place with a 2-point gap between those two clubs, City obviously need to go out and win that game. If they don't go out and win that game, obviously the advantage then flips to Arsenal, right? Arsenal are going to go into that game, City versus Arsenal, with a 2-point lead over Pep Guardiola's side, and they're going to play for a draw. They are going to go to the Etihad and play for a draw. They're not going to do anything adventurous. They're not going to do anything crazy. They're going to go into that game and play for a draw. The same way that they did that against Liverpool, the same way that they did that against, again, Liverpool, and the same way that they did that when they played against United, Chelsea, I think it was Chelsea. I might be thinking of the wrong game. But Chelsea, all of those games, all those big games that you can think of, Arsenal played for the draw. You want to know what's also interesting that's coming up soon? Arsenal, they take on Tottenham at the weekend, and they have Chelsea in their next game after that. Tottenham and then Chelsea. 2 fierce rivals, 2 London derbies, 2 teams that are trying to battle relegation for Spurs and get Champions League football for Chelsea. There is concerns growing. There are alarm bells that are starting to ring with Arsenal. And again, this weekend, it more depends on what City do. City have an opportunity to put even more pressure on this Arsenal team. If City win that game Saturday night, they could put immense amounts of pressure on on Arsenal going into their game on Sunday. The fact that there's no 12:30 game again on Saturday is a joke. Absolute joke. That is a joke. But yes, it relies on City. Like you say, it relies on Manchester City. However, I do feel City are up for it now. They are better from behind. Hey, Liverpool have got first-hand experience of City tracking them down and chasing them. We've also got experience of us chasing them down. Both ways, both end in disappointment. So we get it. We get it. If City lose to Newcastle Then a draw was a good result for Arsenal against Wolves, gain a point. Yeah, and that's kind of the topsy-turvy sort of hindsight view that football can present. The only downside to that is obviously Arsenal then need to capitalise by beating Tottenham. That's the only because if Arsenal draw, it's basically as you were. If Arsenal draw at the weekend to Spurs after City already draw to Newcastle, it's as you were. Arsenal need to have a better result than City this weekend for that draw to mean anything. So we'll see how it goes, but it's going to be interesting either way, whichever way it goes. Put simply, it's the history of the Arsenal. Big old Alf who's in the building. Lovely to have you here, bro. I mean, you could be right. You could be right if obviously Arsenal do crumble from here. If they crumble from here, though, the scenes of glorious meltdown emotion are going to be cinema. Pure cinema. And I am here for it. I'm here for it. If Arsenal bottle it from this position, it's going to be glorious. But we shall see. Right now, I still consider Arsenal favourites. If Arsenal lose to Tottenham, though, then City's the favourite. I 100% agree with you. I think Arsenal are the favourites, simply for the reason that points on the board mean more than games in hand. But I also think that if Arsenal were to lose to Tottenham, that is just losing to Tottenham as Arsenal would be crushing. It would be crushing for them. Not just in terms of, oh, we lost 3 points. Not just in terms of, oh, we lost a game to our bitter rivals. Not just in terms of, oh, we lost bragging rights to our fierce local rivals. But in terms of, we're starting to worry now. We're starting to panic. Because we've been sat so comfortable for most of this season that all of a sudden the pressure's on. It's heating up and they can't handle the heat. That would be the worry if I'm Arsenal in that game. And let's also not forget as well, 2 things go into that game. Number one, I've already mentioned, Tottenham are going into that game with a new manager. New manager bouncers can often throw curveballs that maybe some teams are not expecting. Hence, Michael Carrick with Man United against Arsenal a few short weeks ago. And number 2, Spurs took points off of Man City. Again, I understand it was a different manager, but nobody was expecting Spurs to take points off of Man City. Nobody was expecting Man City to drop points when they raced into a 2-goal lead in the first half. So if anybody is out there completely ruling out Spurs of doing anything in that game, you may need to just back up a little bit. Just back up a little bit. Just slow down a little bit. It would be so funny if Tottenham win. Their season is meaningless, but they could still play a role in the title race by beating Arsenal. I actually rate Van de Ven and Romero, same as Saliba and Gabriel. I was with you right up until you said you rate Romero. I was with you until you said that. And Romero's not going to even play this weekend, so he's not even going to be there. Tottenham will stay up regardless. I don't think there's any worry for Spurs about relegation. I still think they are, at the very worst, the 4th worst team in the Premier League, like they were last season. They'll stay up regardless. Tottenham will be fine. If they beat Arsenal, that would be hilarious, considering that all Arsenal do is belittle and disregard them. Even some Arsenal fans are saying that they're not rivals anymore. And I find that to be a complete joke. I really do hope Spurs beat them this weekend, but I don't necessarily see it happening. I rate Van der Ven too. I think Romero is one of the most overrated players that I've ever seen. Spurs fans go on about him like he's incredible, but he is constantly a liability. He constantly lets your team down time and time again, and I find him to be useless. I think, well, not completely useless. I think he's an okay defender. I think in the right system, I think he'd do really well. For example, I think if he was to go to Spain and if he was to go and play for Diego Simeone's Atletico Madrid, I think he'd do really well there. Otherwise, I don't think a top team would take him. I don't think him just being a World Cup winner is enough to have him be merited as a good defender. He's not that great. I wouldn't put them two on the same pedestal as Saliba and Gabriel. Saliba and Gabriel are light years ahead of them both as a partnership. But yes, I rate Van der Ven highly. There we go. I'm back. I pressed the wrong button on my mouse. My bad. Whoopsie daisy. I say that Spurs season is meaningless, but they might be in a relegation. West Ham will get a lot of points. Maybe. I mean, like I say, there might be in a relegation battle, but I still don't think that they will be in any sort of danger of going down. Spurs. I still think that at the very, like I say, at the worst case scenario is they're the fourth worst team, and sometimes that's all you need to be to survive, like they did last season, and then they went on and won the Europa League. Now it's not obviously going to happen again. A, they're not in the Europa League. B, they've not got no chance of winning the Champions League. Well, I say they've got no chance. They've got 1% chance of winning the Champions League, and they're out the FA Cup, they're out the Carabao Cup, so they've got no chance of really winning a trophy. It is what it is for Spurs. It is what it is. Arsenal is the only Big Six club not to win a trophy this decade. Yeah, you're right. I mean, no, 2020 FA Cup. Yeah, 2020 FA Cup. Arsenal won the FA Cup then. So, not quite. Not quite. Van der Ven is not just a placement. No, it's not. Van der Ven is very accomplished with the ball at his feet. He's very accomplished with the ball at his feet. Betting odds for Spurs to relegate and win champion. Could you imagine if they did? Could you imagine if Spurs somehow won the Champions League but got relegated? Oh, that would be insane. It'd be no, it wouldn't necessarily be typical Spurs, but to get something so good but have to do it by doing something so embarrassing. Incredible. That's insane. That is actually that would actually be insane. I like that. I like it. I obviously, if it doesn't come at Liverpool's expense in the final, then I like it. Oh, imagine if they did that whilst beating Arsenal in the final. If there was a way to have Arsenal versus Tottenham in the final of the Champions League and Spurs won it. Oh my God, please. If Liverpool aren't going to win it, please let that become a reality. Please let that become a reality. If Liverpool are not, I'm not accepting anything else. Either Liverpool win the 7th Champions League this year, or Tottenham are going to win it for the first time and they're going to beat Arsenal in the final. Please, I am begging the footballing gods that be to let that happen. Please. I need it in my veins, please. Arsenal fans having meltdowns worldwide. Please. I need that. Not as much as obviously I need a 7th Champions League this year, but a close second is Spurs beating Arsenal in a Champions League final. 203rd decade start. Oh, okay. I thought you meant like the last decade. I thought you meant like just the last 10 years. Sorry. I didn't think that. 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Yeah, that makes more sense now. Okay. Yeah, I thought you just meant the last 10 years, bro. So that's my bad. That's my misinterpretation there. Where did we get up to? So I talked about Saka, Declan Rice. Gabriel Martinelli, by the way, terrible. Gabriel Martinelli had 3 opportunities yesterday to either get 2 goals and 1 assist, and he bottled every single one of them opportunities. He bottled every single one of those opportunities. I used to like Martinelli. I used to see a lot of potential in him. I know Jurgen Klopp talked about him before and rated the guy. Again, I don't know whether it's just down to him actually not being that good. I don't know whether this manager's absolutely lost the plot with him. I don't know what it is, but Martinelli used to be so promising and so good. And now I'm like looking at him and I'm like, this player he's not that great. He's not that great at all. And when you consider like his backup is Leandro Trossard, who I don't even know if Trossard's better than Martinelli, to be fair. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I feel like you get maybe more output out of... I don't even know. Martinelli seems good in the Champions League, though. Martinelli seems good in the Champions League. Useless in every other competition, but good in the Champions League. Maybe just have him stick to the Champions League. I don't even know. I don't know. Basically, Trossard and Martinelli are both as good and as bad as each other. But Martinelli last night, oh my God, the misses that he did, the opportunities he wasted, absolutely criminal. Absolutely criminal as far as what he's concerned. Noni Madueke, 50 million, give or take, 50 million on a player who will take on his man really well. And that's it. And he'll take on his players so well that he'll want to do it again. And again. And again. And again. And again. And again. And he'll do it constantly and consistently. But he'll have no end product at the end of it. Madueke's consistency with his end product is about as consistent as the performances you get from Martinelli and Trossard. Very inconsistent. Gyökeres, non-existent. Look, if you wanted a striker that could occupy about 3 different players, go and buy like a Wout Weghorst or something. Go and buy a player like that. If you want a player that is going to be dragging 2 or 3 players with him wherever he goes, why'd you go and buy Gyökeres for, what was it, 60 odd million? 60, 70 odd million, something along them lines. I can't even remember. Why? Why? I don't know whether it's a lack of service. I mean, I rated this guy when he first came. A lot of people did. A lot of people thought that this was going to be the final piece to this Arsenal puzzle that was going to get them across the finish line, get them to winning trophies, winning titles and stuff like that. And yet they still may. But I worry. Again, if I was an Arsenal fan, I would worry that this guy has been overhyped by the Portuguese league in the same way that Darwin Núñez, again, to use a Liverpool reference, Darwin Núñez was overhyped by the Portuguese league. But at least Darwin Núñez was actually somewhat more useful than what Gyökeres is proving. At least Núñez, when he actually turned up, was dangerous. At least Núñez actually won games for Liverpool. I can't necessarily say the same thing for Gyökeres right now. And there's still time. There is still time for Gyökeres to turn it around. Of course there is. But with every passing game, I've got to be honest with you, I would be losing a little bit of confidence in him. I've backed him as well. I backed him at the beginning when he first came. I backed him midway through this season when a lot of people were getting on his back. I actually backed him, and I still kind of back him. But again, I'm starting to... I would be starting to lose a bit of confidence in this guy. And also I want to talk about... I've kind of alluded to it a few times during this when I talked about Saka and I talked about Rice, Zubimendi, Timber, players being ran into the ground, players playing too many minutes, not enough squad rotation maybe. That's the theme, not enough squad rotation. And I want to talk about that when I bring it all round to Mikel Arteta. Now, I don't know what it is. But with the exception of Zubimendi, he doesn't appear to have any confidence in any of the players that he has signed this year. He put Zubimendi in, and Zubimendi is seemingly a vocal point in the Arsenal squad. He's pretty much there alongside Declan Rice. That position is seemingly pretty much set in stone. And as far as what Zubimendi is concerned, I think he's had a bit of a hit and miss season so far. I think he's looked good in certain games when he's not been put under pressure, but I feel like it is a weakness waiting to happen when he is in there against teams that are going to target him for the press. I think we saw it against Liverpool especially, and I think we've seen it in a few other games here and there. But what I've seen of Zubimendi is that if he's allowed time and space on the ball, he looks good. But if he's not allowed that time and space on the ball and teams target him, that's when I feel like there is a weakness there that opposition teams can exploit. But when I look at all the other summer signings of Arsenal, I feel like Gyökeres has been thrown into the deep end a little bit, partially because of Kai Havertz's injury. I think if Kai Havertz was there, was more in the squad without injury, I think we would have seen a bit more rotation, a bit more of the weight lifted off of Gyökeres' shoulders, and we would have probably seen a better Gyökeres for it, and we probably would have seen a sharper Kai Havertz who may have actually won a few more games for Arsenal. I think that has been a little bit of a hindrance on Arsenal, but it's not an excuse as to why they are poor. Gyökeres still should be firing on all cylinders. Gyökeres still should be helping Arsenal win games when they're not doing very well, or whatever the case may be. But that's not my point here. My point more so is, does Mikel Arteta have trust in his squad rotation players? And it also bleeds into another point that there are no more excuses for Arsenal fans this year. No more excuses for Arsenal fans this year. If you don't win the league this year, you can't be crying about injuries. You can't be crying about your board didn't give you enough here and enough there to go into the transfer market with. You can't be complaining about the PGMOL. You can't be complaining about VAR. You can't be complaining about referees. You can't be complaining about, outside interferences or this team having this and not having that, or whatever the case may be. You can't go in. If you are to lose it from this position, there are no more excuses. You have to look at the players, some of them not being good enough, some of them not having the right mentality, some people maybe having a little from column A and a little from column B in that regard. And you have to look at the manager and the mistakes that he's made. And the mistakes I think he has made is a lack of rotation and a lack of trust in some of his squad players. Like I say, I thought last night would have been a good opportunity to maybe rest Declan Rice and maybe put Christian Norgard in that midfield. A player that you brought in as a squad rotation, it only cost just under 10 million. A player that is Premier League, is capable. He's Premier League proven, done very well with Brentford the past few years. A player that basically steps up whenever he seemingly comes into the side, does his job well, may not get exactly the plaudits that he deserves, may go a little bit under the radar, but does his job somewhat effectively in that regard. I thought that would have been a good opportunity to maybe do that. I also thought it might be a good opportunity to maybe not even play Bukayo Saka. What happened to Eberechi Eze? Eze seemingly scored a hat-trick against Spurs and then disappeared. Why is Eze not playing? You look a better side when he's there. You seemingly have more creativity in the final third when he's there. You've got a bit more skill, a bit more flair. Breaks down low blocks. Got a good shot on him. Good pace. Good skill. Bit of creativity. Bit of magic every now and again. Why is the likes of Bukayo Saka being put in his position when Saka's not a natural number 10 in comparison to Eze, who is, when Odegaard isn't there? Or even if you play him as a left winger, why are the inconsistent pair of Leandro Trossard and Gabriel Martinelli playing in that position when Eze, I wouldn't say he's a natural left winger. I would say he's probably more effective in the middle. But there's no doubt about it that he can play in that position. He can play there. I'm just curious as to why that is. I'm curious as to why there is no trust in some of these summer signings. Hincapié, I can somewhat understand because Gabriel and Saliba are the solidified, dominant centre-back pairings. And the likes of Mosquera and Hincapié are either going to wait for their opportunity for rotation in other competitions, or in Hincapié's case, he can play left back as he did last night. So I understand those two to an extent. But there doesn't seem to be any trust. I don't even think there'd be that much trust in Gyökeres if Kai Havertz was available. The only thing I'm surprised at with Gyökeres is the fact that Mikel Merino hasn't played more up front. That's the only bit I'm a little bit surprised at. That Merino hasn't played more in the striker to accommodate for Gyökeres when he's not been firing on all cylinders, which has been fairly regular this season. That's the only bit I'm a little bit surprised at in Havertz's absence. I'm just curious, does anybody else realize or know this? Does anybody know the reasoning behind why this may be the case? Or am I looking into it a little bit too deeply? Let me know in the chat what you guys think of that. But I don't know. Just to me, I'm a little bit surprised we haven't seen more of Eze. I'm a little bit surprised. I mean, again, Madueke has been thrown in there mainly because Saka's been injured. So again, he's kind of just been thrown in there as is the need and the want of the squad in Saka's absence. But I don't know. I'm just curious as to why the squad rotation hasn't quite gone according to plan. And again, it goes back to the thing I said earlier. There is no more excuses. Arsenal fans were waxing lyrical about how deep their squad depth is in all areas of the pitch now. They basically said, "Oh, we've got like 3 players for every position. You know, we've got like Timber who can play right back, Ben White who can play right back. I think Mosquera can even potentially play there. I think some people said. Then you've got the amount of centre backs that you have. Gabriel, Saliba, of course, the starting ones, but you can put Hincapié there. You can put Mosquera there. You can put Calafiori there. You've got left back wise, you've got Calafiori, you've got Hincapié, you've got Lewis Skelly. Midfield wise, Zubimendi, Marino, Rice, Norgard, Odegaard, Eze, Saka on the right, Madueke either side, Martinelli, Trossard. Eze can be on one of the wings if obviously push comes to shove. And then up front, all right, Havertz has been injured for most of the season, but you still managed to sign a big striker in Gyökeres. Marino. Remember like November? Was it November time? Around about October, November time. Marino was seen as a prolific goal scorer. What happened to that? Why did that suddenly go from being, this is working, to let's change it to accommodate for a striker who is not as good as our makeshift striker at putting the ball in the back of the net? I think there are just certain questions that need to be answered as far as what Mikel Arteta is concerned. I've said this before and I'll keep saying it. When you are outside of the Prem, your numbers look inflated. England dominated football in the 80s because they had the money. The 5-year Europe ban caused players to not want to play in England and reset that progress. Now we're back to England being dominant, and it will only get more England-centric. Big numbers in other leagues mean nothing. I mean, yes and no. I think it's not to completely disregard all leagues because, you know, Harry Kane killed it in the Premier League, killed it in Bundesliga. Michael Olise is killing it in Bundesliga as well after killing it with a Crystal Palace side. With all due respect, Mbappe killed it in the French league, killing it in the Spanish league now. I'm sure that if one day he was to maybe come over to the English league, which is probably never going to happen, but if it ever did one day for whatever reason, I'm sure he'd kill it over here too. I think there are certain players that will kill it in all leagues. And I do agree, like the English way of the English way of the English dominating the European circuit is only going to get more dominant from here. Now, we may not necessarily win those competitions all the time because there are going to be exceptions. PSG, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, they'll always be strong contenders for the big European competitions, of course. So it's not always going to be a foregone conclusion in that regard. But you are right in terms of the quantity of English teams may continue to grow. I mean, there was a point last season, wasn't there, where England could have had about 12 teams in European competitions for that season, and it basically depended on who was going to win the Champions League, who was going to qualify for the Champions League through the league, and then obviously that was going to determine who else qualified in where, who was going to win the Europa League, and who was therefore going to qualify in the Europa League spots, alongside obviously the Europa Conference League, and obviously Chelsea were the favourites to win that. So it could have been that multiple more teams could have qualified. And obviously Crystal Palace qualified for the Europa Conference League this year due to the fact that they won the FA Cup. So there could have been a number of other teams that qualified in those competitions purely based off the fact that it was so competitive that if certain scenarios had been met, so I think one of them was basically if Aston Villa goes sixth but win the Champions League, then they will qualify for the Champions League alongside the top five. If Chelsea go into a Europa Conference League spot but win the Conference League, they'll obviously go into the Europa League, which means the likes of like Forest would go down to the Conference League. And there was just all scenarios like that, wasn't there? And obviously Palace only dropped into the Conference League simply for the reason that there was that multi-club ownership fiasco and controversy at the beginning of the season that Nottingham Forest basically went, UEFA, have you seen this? We're not saying anything. We're just asking if you've seen it or not. So they benefited from that. Palace still benefited from having European football, but not the European football that they were wanting out of the two. So yeah, there could have been a lot more, but like you say, I think the money aspect is big. It is a big advantage in England's favour, but it doesn't necessarily mean success will be guaranteed for those English sides. I agree. I want to show you this. I don't know why it stopped. I want to show you this because this was glorious. This was insane to me. AFTV. We know this guy. Julian. Moron. We talked about him on a channel before. Conveniently, he was actually in the reverse fixture of the Arsenal Wolves game that we talked about this guy. He basically made a claim that teams that park the bus should not be allowed to compete in the Premier League, which is completely ironic, considering. We've also talked about him before because he's also been at the center of some big controversy. But I saw this on AFTV. And I just wanted to put this out there because I thought that this was outstanding. Let's take a listen, shall we?
But I looked at the weather report. You had gusts gusts. No, this is actually what we're experiencing.
Yep.
There was wind gusts up to 36 miles an hour, and it was a swirling wind.
Gusts. Gusts. Wind. Should we play it again? Let's play it one more time.
But I looked at the weather report. You had gusts. No, this is actually what we're experiencing.
Yep.
There was wind gusts up to 36 miles an hour, and it was a swirling wind.
What are you talking about, you fraud? What are you talking? That is now. It takes a lot to make Ty look sane, right? Takes a lot to make Ty look sane from AFTV. But this is up there with it was raining. This was up there with that. What are you on about? You absolute fraud. Absolute fraud. Talking about the wind. Talk about, I looked at the weather report and it was going to be windy. Absolute fraud. Apparently, I was wrong. Apparently, me saying not 5 minutes ago that Arsenal fans have run out of excuses if they lose the league from this position. Apparently, I was wrong. Apparently, they're going to just pull excuses out of their backside about anything and everything to protect the team and the manager. It was windy. Absolute BS of the highest quality. And like I said earlier this week, I put out a video earlier this week that basically was stating why Arsenal fans are very much disliked. Why is that the case? I put out a video that was basically saying that why are they disliked? Why are they seemingly so disrespected? Why are they constantly being laughed at or put under the microscope by the mainstream media or by fan content creators or whoever else it is? I put out a video that basically tried to answer all of those questions. And this is the reason why. Because fans like that constantly use big platforms to spout absolute nonsense. That is why. And again, I'll reiterate what I said in the video. Go back and check it out if you haven't already. I will reiterate what I said in the video. Arsenal fans, I'm not getting on at all of you. It's just certain sections of your fan base that are like that. Every fan base has them. Every fan base has the crazy, deluded ones that ruin the reputation of your football club. No doubt in my mind about it. But with takes like that about the wind, about gusts of up to 70 miles an hour or whatever the hell he said, that's why we disrespect, we mock, and we disregard you as being serious. Those are the fans that ruin the reputation of others. Like I say, I know certain Arsenal fans. Most of them are actually all right. Most of them are actually smart. Luca, who was in the building earlier, he may be a bit extreme at times, in my opinion. He may go a little bit too far one way or another. But at least he can back it up. At least he's not making outrageous claims like what Julian is there. True Gooner, big up Josh every single time. Smart man. Smart man. Again, doing some excellent stuff over on True Gooner's YouTube channel. Speaks a lot of sense. An Arsenal fan who speaks sense. There are Arsenal fans out there that do. But there are a lot of them online, on social media, on X, Instagram, and especially YouTube, with big platforms, and they use AFTV, that speak utter nonsense. And this is just another one of those nonsensical, crazy, weird takes that is just full of excuses and weak ones at that. Like I say, it makes Ty's comment about the rain look sane. And they're both about the same thing. It's not... like I say, those are the kind of fans that let fan bases down. I'm all for a bit of a joke. I'm all for a bit of banter. But I saw that earlier and I could not honestly miss the opportunity to bring it up. I couldn't miss the opportunity to bring it up and talk about it because it like I say, it goes hand in hand with what I said earlier on this week about Arsenal fans being looked at by the mainstream media and by rival fans as not being serious or being mocked. And I said that the reason why is because of the fan base. And Julian there is pretty much just put my whole point out there as Exhibit A for why Arsenal fans are so deluded, so messed up in this situation, and why no one takes them seriously. Why no one takes them seriously. It's just the way that it is, the way that it goes sometimes. It just is the way that it is. Yeah. Bottom line, before we get out of here, the bottom line here is I still think Arsenal are in the ascendancy. As much as obviously everybody wants to say that this is now in Man City's hands, as much as everybody wants to say that it's advantage Manchester City, I understand that logic. I think that they are somewhat right in saying that. At this specific moment in time, I still think it's Arsenal's to lose. Arsenal's to win. It's also Arsenal's to lose. I still think Arsenal will go on and win it. And the reasons being is that I think they can recover from this. And I think that they have a bit more consistency behind them than what Man City do. I'm still more convinced by Arsenal than I am of Manchester City at this moment in time. But that could all change. And that could all actually change as quickly as this weekend. That could all change as quickly as this week. Like I say, if City go against Newcastle on Saturday night and win that game and win it by making a statement, fair play to City. And if Arsenal go to Spurs on Sunday and they lose that game or they drop points in that game, the complete momentum has switched for me. That might be a turning point completely in this title race for me personally. But until we get to that point, or until maybe we get to that point, because it's not a guarantee, I am still going with Arsenal. I think Arsenal will win on Sunday against Spurs. I think Arsenal will still likely win the Premier League. But this has just thrown a bit of doubt into proceedings, into a situation that I thought was pretty much dead and buried. I thought Arsenal would win the league from here. I didn't see anybody really catching them. This has just thrown a little bit more doubt for me. A little bit more doubt, a little bit more concern. I think there are growing issues at Arsenal that I think need to be addressed. They're not completely blown out of the water sort of things. They're not sort of like, oh, this is irreparable or anything like that. They're things that obviously can be changed, they can be modified, and they can be adapted to. Like I say, the rotation side of things as well. Get Declan Rice out the firing line. I don't see him being dropped for the Spurs game for obvious reasons, but maybe after that Spurs game, I mean, even then there's still got Chelsea in the next one. So maybe after these next two games, maybe look to take Declan Rice out of the firing line a little bit. Maybe rotate with Christian Norgard. Maybe put Eberechi Eze into the equation. Maybe take out some of the underperforming players like your Trossards, like your Martinellis, of course. Maybe teach Madueke that there's more to football than just taking on your man in a 1v1. Maybe show Gyökeres where the goal is. I don't know. Something along them lines. I still think it's in Arsenal's hands. And I still think that Arsenal will probably go on and win. They'll win on Sunday. I still think they'll probably go on and win the league, unfortunately. As much as I hope that obviously they bottle it from this point. It will be glorious. It will be glorious. So I'm hoping that they lose. They probably go on to win. But I think last night just proved one thing. Can't take anything for granted. Can't take anything for granted. And especially if you're a City fan right now that is getting a bit giddy, getting a bit excited. If it can happen to Arsenal, it can happen to you too. So maybe just don't count your chickens before they hatch. Don't get it too ahead of yourself. There's still a lot of football to be played, of course. But yeah, it is going to be a very exciting run-in between now and the end of the season. And like I say, it kicks off this weekend in a massive way. City against Newcastle Saturday night, and then not even 24 hours later, Arsenal take on Tottenham at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, away from home. Fierce North London derby awaits. And what a first game for Igor Tudor. Am I pronouncing that name right, by the way? Igor Tudor. I don't know. I haven't been not butchering that name, but what a first game to be the new interim manager at Spurs with. First game, North London derby. You can make yourself an absolute hero. Even with a draw. This guy could make himself a hero on Sunday. Even with a draw to those Spurs faithful. He could make himself a hero right off the bat. Imagine that. Just imagine that. Anyway, we're going to get out of here. Thank you all so much for watching, for listening, for taking time out of your busy schedules to listen to the ramblings of this guy. Leave a like on the video if you haven't already. Subscribe if you are new or want to see more content like this. Both things will always and forever be greatly appreciated, as always. Hit the comment section as well. Hit the comment section if you haven't, or if you're watching on playback. I'm sure if you have anything to say about what we talked about in this video, or anything else that you want to talk about for future videos to come or future live streams, then let me know in that section, people. I'm sure what you have to say might for great interest in reading, so please do get involved. Otherwise, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks live stream. Thank you all once again for the love and support. It really does mean the world to me. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I'll see and speak with you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your day. Speak to you all again very, very soon.